There is a lot of frustration among Rangers supporters after this match, and it is completely understandable when you look at how the game unfolded. But one thing that needs to be said clearly is that the blame for this result cannot simply be thrown at the manager. After everything we saw on the pitch, it is difficult to point the finger at the man on the touchline when the real story of the night was written by what happened in front of goal. The outcome of this match came down to one simple and painful reality. Rangers had the opportunities. Rangers controlled large parts of the match, but Rangers did not finish the chances that could have decided everything long before penalties even became part of the conversation. When supporters look back at the statistics from this match, the numbers paint a picture that feels almost unbelievable considering the final outcome. Rangers dominated the attacking side of the game, constantly pushing forward, creating opportunities, and putting pressure on the opposition defense. There were 24 attempts on goal from Rangers compared to just 1 from Celtic. 6 of those attempts were on target for Rangers, while Celtic did not register a single shot on target across the entire match. Those numbers alone show how one-sided large spells of the match actually were. Yet football has always been a sport where dominance means nothing if the ball does not end up in the back of the net. There were also 6 shots that drifted off target for Rangers, moments where the final touch or the final bit of composure simply was not there. The team even produced 9 attempts from outside the box, showing the willingness to try different ways of breaking through. Meanwhile, Celtic managed only 1 attempt from distance throughout the match. On paper, it reads like a game that Rangers should have controlled and closed out comfortably. But football does not reward the team that creates the most chances. It rewards the team that finishes them. That is where the real frustration sits tonight. Time and time again, Rangers managed to get into promising positions, moving the ball forward and finding space in dangerous areas. The build-up play was often good enough to break through defensive lines and open opportunities that could have completely changed the flow of the match. Yet when those key moments arrived, the final execution just was not there. Whether it was a rushed finish, a poor decision, or simply a lack of composure in front of goal, the result was the same every time. Another chance slipping away. There were moments in the second half that will likely stay in the minds of supporters for quite some time. One of the clearest opportunities came when the ball was delivered into the area and fell kindly, presenting a situation that demanded calmness and precision. Instead of settling the ball and picking the finish, the effort was snatched at and sent wide. In matches of this magnitude, those kinds of moments are often the difference between victory and elimination. When chances like that go begging, it always leaves the door open for the opposition to survive. Another opportunity came shortly after, again in a situation where Rangers had managed to break through and create space in the final third. Once more, the chance looked promising as the ball arrived in a dangerous area, but the finish failed to match the quality of the build-up. These are exactly the situations that define big matches. The difference between top sides and teams still searching for consistency is often measured in those brief seconds where a striker must remain composed under pressure. This is why so many supporters are pointing towards the attacking end of the pitch as the real issue that needs addressing. The effort and work rate from some of the forwards cannot be questioned. Players have shown willingness to press, chase, and try to create opportunities for themselves and their teammates. But at this level, effort alone is not enough. Rangers need forwards who can convert the chances that fall their way, especially in matches where the team has already done the hard work of controlling possession and creating opportunities. Looking beyond the attack, there were still individual performances that deserve recognition. In defense, there were moments where the backline stood strong and dealt well with the limited threats that came their way. Considering how little Celtic managed to create in terms of clear chances, it is fair to say that parts of the defensive structure held up well across the 90 minutes. Some players showed composure at the back, stepping in to break up attacks and helping maintain control during spells where Rangers pushed forward. In midfield, there were mixed performances. Certain players struggled to impose themselves on the game as much as supporters might have hoped, particularly during moments where the team needed someone to take charge and dictate the tempo. At the same time, there were also glimpses of energy and determination when substitutions came on and tried to inject something different into the match. Fresh legs brought a bit of urgency at times, showing that the team still had the desire to push for a winner before the match drifted towards penalties. And when the game finally reached that point, Everyone in the stadium knew the nature of what was coming next. Penalty shootouts have always carried a reputation in football as one of the most unpredictable ways for a match to be decided. No matter how dominant a team might have been during the 90 minutes, once the match reaches penalties, it becomes a completely different kind of contest. Nerves, pressure, and tiny margins suddenly take center stage. The moment the first penalty is missed, the entire dynamic of a shootout can change in an instant. Confidence can swing from one side to the other within seconds. What makes it even more painful for supporters is knowing that the match probably should have been decided long before it reached that stage. When a team creates that many opportunities and still cannot find the decisive goal, penalties start to feel like an unnecessary gamble. For Rangers supporters watching this unfold, the feeling was one of disbelief mixed with frustration. The performance had shown promise in several areas, but the one area that truly mattered on the night was the one that ultimately let the team down. It is difficult to accept elimination when the statistics, the chances, and the overall flow of the match suggest a very different story. Yet that is exactly the reality the team now has to face after letting another big opportunity slip away. When a match like this slips away, the immediate reaction is often to search for someone to blame. Emotions run high, especially in fixtures that carry this much weight for supporters. But when you step back and analyze what actually happened on the pitch, it becomes increasingly difficult to place that responsibility on the manager. The tactical setup allowed Rangers to dominate possession, move the ball into dangerous areas, and create a volume of chances that should normally be enough to win most matches. The problem was never about getting into those positions. The real issue was what happened once the opportunities arrived. Throughout the 90 minutes, Rangers looked like the side more determined to take control of the game. The tempo of the play, the willingness to push forward, and the pressure applied high up the pitch suggested a team that understood the importance of the occasion. Celtic, on the other hand, struggled to create meaningful attacking moments. It was rare to see them threaten in the final third with any real conviction. Their lack of shots on target throughout the match highlights just how little they managed to produce offensively. And that is exactly why this result feels so difficult to accept. When one side spends so much of the match creating opportunities while the other barely threatens the goal, logic would normally suggest a clear outcome. Yet football has never been a sport governed purely by logic. Sometimes matches are decided by moments of composure, by a single clinical finish, or by the brutal unpredictability that arrives when a match goes all the way to penalties. The painful reality for Rangers is that this was a game where the team had more than enough opportunities to avoid that scenario entirely. There were periods where the attacking movement looked sharp and the build-up play showed real promise. The ball was moved quickly through midfield, players found space between the lines, and crosses were delivered into the area with the intention of creating clear chances. Supporters could sense that a breakthrough was coming. The pressure was building, the crowd could feel the momentum, and yet the final moment never arrived. Part of the issue lies in the lack of ruthlessness in the final third. Several forwards worked tirelessly, pressing defenders and trying to stretch the opposition back line. But when it came to the most important action in football, putting the ball into the net, the finishing simply was not at the required level. At times the decision-making felt rushed. In other moments the composure just seemed to disappear at the exact second it was needed the most. Supporters have seen this pattern before during the season, and that is what makes it even more frustrating. Rangers have shown on several occasions that they can build attacks, move the ball with purpose, and create openings. But without forwards who consistently convert those openings into goals, the entire structure of the team begins to feel incomplete. In matches against strong opponents, those missed opportunities often come back to haunt you. Looking at the squad more broadly, there are still clear areas that require improvement if Rangers want to compete consistently for major honors. The defensive line has shown signs of resilience in certain matches, and there are individuals who look capable of forming the backbone of the team moving forward. However, depth and reliability across the back line remain concerns that cannot be ignored. Injuries and inconsistency have already exposed how fragile that area of the squad can be over the course of a demanding season. One defender in particular showed a level of composure that stood out during the match. His reading of the game, positioning, and willingness to step forward and intercept passes helped keep Celtic from building any real attacking momentum. Performances like that deserve recognition because they demonstrate that there are players within the squad who can handle the pressure of big occasions. But one or two solid displays in defense cannot compensate for the lack of clinical finishing at the other end of the pitch. The situation at fullback also raises questions about long-term stability. There are players who can perform well when they are available, but maintaining consistent fitness has proven difficult. In modern football, the role of the fullback is incredibly demanding. These players are expected to defend, support attacks, provide width, and deliver quality balls into the box throughout the entire match. If injuries prevent them from staying available for extended periods, it becomes extremely difficult for the team to build continuity. Midfield remains another area where balance is essential. There were spells during the match where Rangers controlled the central areas effectively, circulating the ball and pushing Celtic deeper into their own half. But there were also moments where the midfield lacked that extra spark, that one player capable of unlocking a defense with a decisive pass or a sudden burst forward. In tight matches, those kinds of players often make the difference between sustained pressure and a breakthrough goal. Despite these concerns, the biggest conversation among supporters inevitably returns to the attacking options. A team can build the best defensive structure and control the midfield battle, but if the strikers cannot convert chances, victories become extremely difficult to secure. Several of the current forwards show determination and work rate, and that commitment is always appreciated by supporters. Yet at this level, the margin between a good forward and a truly reliable goalscorer is defined by consistency in front of goal. When you look at the number of chances Rangers created in this match, it becomes impossible to ignore the conclusion that the squad still needs more firepower in the final third. Matches of this importance require players who remain calm when the ball drops in the penalty area, players who can take that extra touch, lift their head, and place the finish beyond the goalkeeper without hesitation. Those are the moments that define seasons. As the club looks ahead to the next transfer window, strengthening the attacking line will almost certainly become one of the main priorities. Supporters want to see players who can turn dominant performances into clear victories, players who can ensure that nights like this do not end in frustration again. Because when a team creates 24 chances and still walks away eliminated, it sends a very clear message about what must change moving forward. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. The silence around Jim Gillespie's sudden departure from Rangers had lingered for weeks, hanging heavy over Ibrox like a cold Glasgow mist. Supporters were told little, officials offered even less, and the whole matter seemed destined to fade into the background of a long, demanding season. Yet whispers have begun to swirl again after Gillespie finally broke his silence in a conversation that has quickly sparked fresh speculation across Scottish football. While the former Rangers figure stopped short of laying out every detail, his words hinted strongly at tensions behind closed doors. According to sources close to the situation, Gillespie suggested that disagreements with the club's hierarchy had been brewing for some time. Those disagreements, he implied, reached a point where remaining at Ibrox simply became impossible. The suggestion of friction within the boardroom has naturally set tongues wagging among supporters who had long believed the club's leadership to be united. Gillespie reportedly spoke with a mixture of restraint and frustration, carefully choosing his words, but leaving enough between the lines to ignite debate. He is believed to have indicated that certain decisions taken by the board conflicted with what he felt was best for the sporting direction of Rangers. Though he declined to name individuals or specific incidents, the tone of his remarks painted the picture of a relationship that had deteriorated steadily rather than collapsing overnight. Within supporter circles, theories are already spreading. Some believe the dispute may have centered on recruitment strategy and the balance of power between football operations and executives upstairs. Others suspect deeper disagreements about the club's long-term vision. None of it has been confirmed. Yet the mere suggestion of unrest has been enough to stir unease among fans who pride themselves on stability and ambition. For now, Rangers officials have offered no public response to Gillespie's comments, maintaining the same quiet stance that followed his departure. But the former insider's decision to speak, however cautiously, has reopened a chapter many thought was closed. And in the rumor mill that surrounds a club of Rangers stature, such words rarely fade away quietly. Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.